I am Warren Sprouse. You're on the Bible Forum. It is right now a Sunday night. It is May 13, 2018. We've been looking at a subject in a sequential manner called The Invisible War, a title I took from an older book. But we're talking about end times events, scenarios, and that sort of thing. This is part 3. We're going to be looking at the book of Daniel. We're going to be looking at Gentile world leadership and the final form thereof. In the run-up to current events, I've been trying to give you a quick summary of how we got here. We meaning Israel and the world. From Adam through Abraham, through Moses, through David. The process whereby God established Israel as a nation of chosen people. No, they did not choose God. God chose them. As a nation through which Messiah would come. As a nation by which God would redeem mankind. And then looking toward the future at a nation which will be at the very center of the final battle for earth. In all of this, the significant events are worked out in secret. The details are known to God and to God alone. But a great deal of it is an open secret. Much of it has already been revealed. And a lot of the future stuff has already been written and discussed. It's available. But in the midst of all of that, the vast majority of the world still does not know. And they don't know because they don't care. We're talking about the children of Israel, the nation of Israel. And as we've worked our way up to this point, we're seeing how the family of Jacob has grown into a nation of people, about 2 million strong, that during the 400 years of Egyptian captivity, they were welded into a nation, kept in one place until they swelled to this size and to this ability. And then God let them loose. And they have settled in the land of promise, the land that was promised to their forefather Abram. They are a once powerful and dominant nation, but they have fallen into disrepair under a sequence of ungodly kings. After David, after Solomon, neither especially perfect, there are only 1 or 2 bright spots in terms of kings. The rest are largely dissolute and ungodly. Not completely rejecting God's covenant, but completely ignoring it. And a powerful king has come, marching down from Babylon, conquering all that is in his path. His name is Cyrus. It is the 6th century BC, about 605. And having conquered Jerusalem, he has taken the best and the brightest back to Babylon to work for him. One of these young men is a fellow named Daniel. Daniel makes a name for himself by refusing to break the kosher laws and to eat food groups which God forbade Israel to eat. That he prospers under his diet above all of the other slaves is noticed. Now, That's a significant event all by itself. A jailer would notice that he's healthier. Skin texture, strength, resilience, general health is much better than all the rest of them. That's an interesting dynamic. But then you realize that where the king is an absolute despot, he has absolute power over everybody's life. You have prisoners and they die in your care, you're probably going to die too. Daniel would rise up through the ranks of leadership to be held in great respect by all the rulers of Babylon. Cyrus eventually dies and another takes his place, and another. About 19 years after Daniel gets there, Babylon would be destroyed. I'll take that back. Babylon would come again to Jerusalem, and this time they would destroy the temple. A man by the name of Nebuzaradan is credited with that feat. It is possible that this is the Bible's Nebuchadnezzar. About 586 BC, 40 years after the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, Daniel is in his 80s and part of what is called the wise men of the kingdom. And then God gives the king, Nebuchadnezzar, a vision of the future. A vision neither the king could remember, nor the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, or the Chaldeans could explain. You see, he doesn't remember himself what it was. And so he wants all of these special people to tell him first, what was my dream, and then what did it mean? And because they could not tell the king about his dream, he orders the whole bunch to be executed. Daniel chapter 2, beginning at verse 12, for this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain. And they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. When the captain came to execute Daniel, Daniel asked to see the king. The king gave Daniel time, and Daniel told his trusted companions that they should pray the God of heaven concerning the ruler's secret. And God answered that prayer, giving Daniel the vision that Nebuchadnezzar had seen and now cannot remember. Daniel later records all of this in his writings, the book of Daniel, chapter 2. You see, Nebuchadnezzar had seen the image of a man standing. Daniel characterized the image as terrible, frightening. The image had a head of gold, breastplate and arms of silver, a belly and thighs of iron, feet that were partly of iron, partly of clay, and on those feet were 10 toes. And while he was watching this image, looking at it, beholding it, the image was destroyed. A stone characterized in the text as not cut out by man's hand came out of the sky, crashing down upon the feet of the image, breaking them into pieces. As a result, the image fell, and the brass and the silver and the gold all broke into pieces. Pieces small enough that the wind carried them away, never to be seen again. Now that would seem to be the hard part, telling the king what he saw in a dream that even he doesn't remember. But there is still the meaning of the dream. And Daniel reveals this to be an image of the times of the Gentiles. Now, keep in mind, God is working through Israel. Israel are not Gentile. The Gentile nations are all unbelievers. They are all outside the covenants of God. And so here are the great kingdoms to come. Kingdoms of the Gentiles that will be struck down, destroyed, but not gone. They will rise again, each one weaker than the one before. Daniel makes it clear that God is the one who raises them up and tears them down. The stone that struck the image was a stone not made by human hands. Now, historically, the head of gold is Babylon the Great, where Daniel is right now, talking to the king. The belly and the thighs represent the Medo-Persian Empire. They would defeat Babylon, but they were not stronger, inherently stronger than Babylon. The legs of iron, Greece, ultimately under Alexander. The feet and toes of iron and clay is a picture of Rome. Each empire, Gentile empire, is represented in terms of their strengths. The 10 toes correspond to the final form of Western civilization. The 10 kings of Revelation 17. 10 horns, it says, equal 10 kings who receive power with the beast. 10 kings who make war with the Lamb and are overcome. Now, it's not simply a coincidence that the core of the European Union is comprised of the territory conquered by Charlemagne in the late 700s and early 800s AD. Charlemagne, crowned king of the Holy Roman Empire by Pope Leo III on December 25th, 799 AD. He was crowned king of the 4 empires, after which the prophecy of Daniel indicates would come the end of the world. Now, given this political belief, the French Charlemagne would adopt Roman culture, Roman architecture, law, literature, and knowledge, keeping it alive. The result, the wisdom of antiquity, would come to Europe. Everything the modern world of today knows about antiquity, it knows because of the Carolingian Renaissance, which preserved it, keeping it from being destroyed. God making certain that not only would this knowledge be retained, but that the prophecy would come true. Out of the Carolingian Renaissance came modern Europe and eventually the European Union. A key ingredient in the biblical end-time scenario. The original European Union corresponds to this ancient Holy Roman Empire. Daniel 9 gives us more detail. In the dream, Daniel reports to Nebuchadnezzar that this 90-foot-tall statue was 90 feet tall, 9 feet wide, with its head of fine gold, its breast and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of brass, and the legs, 2 legs of iron, and the feet with the toes, part iron, part clay. Our own demeaning epithet, we speak of people who have feet of clay, reflects this hidden flaw, that someone would have a hidden weakness, be strong as you want, but be exposed to great pressure, and the feet won't take the pressure. It will collapse and everything will come crashing down. Daniel reveals the stone which was cut out without hands to be God's judgment. Daniel chapter 2, verses 34 and 35. It strikes those weakened feet, and the whole thing comes crashing down. Daniel writes, "Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, the gold broken to pieces, and together became as the chaff which the wind carried away." That's the overview. Next come the details. He explains that Nebuchadnezzar is the head of gold, ruling the known world. But after him will come another kingdom, inferior to his, as silver is inferior to gold. We now know this to be the Medo-Persian Empire. After that, a third kingdom would come, the belly, the thighs of brass. Brass being less precious than silver. And here is Alexander the Great of Macedonia. And after this will come legs of iron. And finally, mixed feet and toes of iron, mixed with clay. Rome. Along with this, the final form of world power, which will also be Roman. The iron and the clay represent elements that will not join with one another, not cleave together in strength. There are 10 toes on these feet, corresponding to the 10 kings who make their appearance in the end times. Their story is for later. The point here is that Babylon is the foremost illustration of Gentile government. After Babylon, everything is downhill in terms of character, in terms of power, in terms of wealth, until it comes to the end, when the stone strikes the feet and the whole thing comes crashing down. The crashing occurs when a stone not cut by human hands comes from the heavens to strike at the feet, the remaining form of Gentile government. And at that point, the whole image is destroyed. Meaning that Gentile rule is forever gone. Jesus is now here. In the future, we'll look more closely at what all of this means, but for now, you need to know that we are in the final form of Gentile world power. Western civilization is rooted in Roman law and custom. Western civilization has given a great deal to this world in terms of human governance, wealth, and power. But Western civilization will produce the 7-headed beast with 10 horns of Revelation chapter 12, and the scarlet-colored beast having 7 heads and 10 horns of Revelation chapter 17. They will consist of the final form of Gentile world power. 10 kings which receive power with the beast for 1 hour. 10 kings which shall hate the woman who rides the beast and make her desolate and naked before it's all over. That woman, she is Babylon. Babylon the Great, mother of harlots and of the earth's abominations. She is drunk with the blood of the saints. Her 7 heads represent the 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. The 7 mountains are the 7 kings that rule the Gentile world during the Great Tribulation. The beast upon which she rides, well, he is the 8th king. He's part of the 7 original, and all of whom will go into perdition for making war against the Lamb. The whole scenario is starting to get very complicated. But in its complexity, it is becoming much more relevant. And we'll take a look at all of that more closely next time.